The Tower of Forgotten Gods. The gods had been forgotten. Their temples had crumbled, their names lost to time, and their voices silenced. But gods do not die so easily. Elias Varon never believed in gods. He was a man of history, of ink-stained hands and sleepless nights poring over brittle parchment. He had spent his life unearthing the past, but he had always dismissed the myths, the stories of deities whose power faded as mortals turned to new faiths, new rulers, and new truths. And yet, when he found the map, something in him stirred. It had been buried deep in the archives of Velmara's Grand University, hidden among scrolls long since deemed irrelevant. The ink was fading, the edges brittle with time, but the markings were clear. There, in the unmapped wilds beyond the Vale of Ciern, stood a tower. A place no kingdom claimed, no traveler returned from. A place where whispers still lingered in the dark. He should have ignored it. He should have left it buried, like the countless myths he had debunked before. Instead he followed it. The journey was treacherous. The deeper they ventured into the wilds, the more the land resisted them. The sun rose at odd hours, casting unnatural shadows. Their compasses spun wildly, unable to find true north. And at night, something moved in the trees, just beyond the firelight. The guides were the first to abandon him, their warnings heavy with fear. Then the scholars turned back one by one, each mumbling some excuse: illness, exhaustion, the uneasy feeling of being watched. By the time Elias reached the mist-shrouded valley, he was alone, and yet he felt no fear. Because there, rising from the earth like a jagged wound, stood the tower. Its stone was dark, impossibly old, marked with symbols that no mortal hand should have carved. It stretched beyond sight, disappearing into the thick, roiling clouds above. The air was heavy, charged with something ancient and waiting. The entrance was open. He stepped inside. The silence pressed against him, thick and unnatural. The moment he crossed the threshold, the world outside seemed to fade, as though the tower had swallowed him whole. The air smelled of dust and decay, of time left undisturbed. And then the whispering began, soft at first like the rustling of parchment, then clearer, voices that did not echo through the stone but curled directly into his mind. "You have come seeking knowledge, mortal." Elias turned. There, in the dim glow of his lantern, stood a statue, carved from black stone, its face weathered but its eyes gleaming with an unnatural light. It was not alone. Lining the chamber were dozens of them. Statues of beings with no names, no stories left to be told. Gods who had been forgotten. And yet they still spoke. At first, their whispers were harmless. Secrets of the past, knowledge no history book held. They told him of lost cities, of kings who had rewritten their own legacies, of wars that had been buried in deception. And all they asked in return was a small sacrifice. A drop of blood. A memory from childhood. The sound of his own name, slipping away like mist. The deeper he went, the more the whispers demanded. One god, carved from obsidian and veined with gold, taught him the language of the first civilization, but in exchange, he lost the ability to write his own. Another, faceless and cracked with time, showed him glimpses of the future, but stole from him the certainty of the present. With each truth he uncovered, the world outside the tower became less real. The sky beyond the entrance blurred. His memories of Velmara faded. His own face in the stone reflections grew unfamiliar. Yet he could not stop. The whispers led him higher, to a chamber untouched by time. There, waiting in the dark, was the oldest of them all. It was not like the others. It had no form, only shifting shadows, its voice pressing against his very bones. "Ask your final question, mortal. But know that the answer will cost you everything." Elias hesitated. He had already given so much. His blood, his memories, pieces of his very self. But one question burned within him, the reason he had come so far. What is the true nature of the gods? The whisper that followed was not a voice, but understanding. It did not speak in words but wrapped around his soul, forcing him to see. And Elias Varon screamed. For the gods were not creators nor protectors. They were not benevolent nor cruel. They were not beings of divine will. They were hunger. They were belief given form, parasites feeding on devotion. The moment they were forgotten, they faded, but never died. They lingered in the cracks of the world, waiting for a mind to remember them again. Elias had listened. He had believed. And now he had become. His body was fading, his mind unraveling, his name slipping into the darkness. He tried to turn back, to run, but the tower had already claimed him. The last thing he saw before the world went black was his own reflection in the stone walls. His own face etched in cold, unyielding stone. Another forgotten god, waiting to whisper to the next fool who came seeking the truth. Years later, deep within the Grand University's archives, a young scholar stumbled upon a strange, faded map. It led to a tower that should not exist. And in the shadows of the library, a whisper curled through the air. "Come find me."